All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone to Catching Lightning, the Salesforce Lightning Experience. We decided to put on the webinar version of this event. About a month ago, we did an in-person event, and we wanted to do a recap of that event because there's a lot of cool stuff that many of us weren't able to attend. So Lightning is the new Salesforce user interface that we as a Salesforce partner want to talk about and encourage everyone to adopt the new interface. So before we kind of get any further with this, I want to introduce myself. I'm Eric Lehnen. I'm a marketing lead here at Redpath Consulting Group. Been here for about 4 years now. Started when the company was just about 6 people and kind of watched it grow to over 30. So I started out as a Salesforce consultant, worked my way up into marketing automation consulting, and now I work with our consultants on managing some of our marketing automation projects, as well as working with our leadership team on driving our internal marketing. So let's talk a little bit about Redpath. So I see many of us here that are attending our Redpath clients, and I'm really happy to see you guys here and thank you for attending. So we've been around since 2008. And among all of our consultants, we have about 100 years of Salesforce consulting experience. You'll notice that we're a Pardot, Salesforce, and a Salesforce.org partner. And these partnerships allow us to work with a lot of really cool clients. And from that, we've been able to work with over 300 organizations in the last decade. And in addition, we have over 80 certifications in Salesforce. And this shows that we've done our background and really leveraging the skills and knowledge necessary to provide value to our clients on the Salesforce.com platform. So today we're going to be talking about Lightning, but how does it compare to Classic? And then I want to highlight some of the Lightning only features. And then I want to jump into a Lightning demo and then talk about why should we be switching to Lightning and what does that transition look like, and then leave it open for a Q&A after. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A log right now. I'll answer them at the end of the presentation. And just kind of another check, can everyone hear me okay? Just go ahead and chat so in the chat bar. Awesome, thank you everyone. So let's get started. When you registered, I asked, have you tested Lightning yet? And I'm not surprised that about half of us have and half of us haven't. And there's a little bit of variance on how much that actually means in terms of testing Lightning. So if we break it down, a lot of us haven't really played around with it too much. Maybe you've turned it on for a second. But the other side of it is we've maybe have completed or started our evaluation or have a pilot team in place already. So I hope that this webinar will help encourage those that haven't started to make the switch to Lightning to feel that it's okay and it's not a huge chasm to jump over, as well as helping those that are on their Lightning journey and showing them a few other tips and tricks as well as new features in Lightning. So this is Classic. We're very familiar with it. It's been around for a long time. This is the Aloha interface. It has aged pretty well, but part of this is it was really designed around data entry and not so much around building a good user experience. So we have chatter, we have our recent items, so this is all very familiar to us. And there's a lot of cool stuff in Classic that we became accustomed to, and switching to Lightning has been a huge jump. And then for anyone that cannot hear the presentation, just make sure that you're calling in, or you can connect to audio directly. And for those that are having any difficulty trying to listen to the audio, I will be sharing the recording out. So I apologize if you cannot. There should be some options to listen to the audio directly within the stream. So if you do not see the call-in number, try connecting audio directly to the WebEx. Okay. So now we want to talk about the Lightning Experience, as we kind of put it, Lex. So Lex is a new user interface, and really what that means is it's giving us more features around page layouts, click paths, and components to build out exactly what we want to do inside of Lightning. And there's a lot of cool features that really stand Lightning apart from Classic and really trying to drive that flexibility, productivity, and ultimately driving more revenue, because you're spending less time on data entry and you're spending more time on getting work done. So converting to Lightning, the way that we look at it, it's not an if, it's more of a when. We feel that Salesforce is really pushing Lightning, as you notice in a lot of the release notes in every new release, is everything is Lightning based. You hardly see anything, if none, any new features for Classic, and that's because Salesforce is making the investment in there. Classic has kind of reached its end. There isn't a sunset date per se, but we feel that it's better in our customers' eyes to be converting to Lightning, so that if there is a sunset date or if there's features that you can only take advantage of, you're already in Lightning. So why now? Well, the last Winter 18 release changed a whole lot of features for Lightning, making it better than ever, but also it closed a lot of the gaps that we saw of making that conversion easier. So they made some investments to identify any of the things that were the gotchas, and they help point that out. And we'll be talking about what are those features to help identify any things that need to be converted from Classic to Lightning when you're doing your transition. And as I said before, all the future enhancements are Lightning focused, especially on the App Exchange as well. You'll notice that there's a lot of apps out there that are Lightning ready or Lightning only. And it's just best practice to be on the newest app, so you're taking advantage of the new features, any new things that will help your end users and system admins and ultimately benefit the entire organization. And it's beautiful. It is way better than the Aloha interface that we've been used to for a number of years. And it just makes things so much easier to use. Even from my standpoint as a Lightning user, I thoroughly enjoy it much more than Classic, and switching is hardly a difference. So you'll see a lot of the same core features that you've worked with in Classic. So you have your log a call new task event that you've kind of seen at the top. You have your chatter posts on different records. So just as you would in Lightning, you have a lot of those same things, but it's so much easier. It makes things a lot easier to manage and access without having to click through things. And things are just generally designed around the user altogether. And we have a lot of other cool features that really change the way that you use Salesforce, but it's not the change that would make things drastic. It's for the better of Salesforce. And as we get through the presentation, you're going to see all the cool things that it does differently than Classic. So there's over 100 different features that Salesforce has announced with Lightning, and they're constantly adding new ones, as well as enhancing the existing ones. And the 7 that I want to talk about today are the homepage, the sales path, Kanban, dashboards, global actions, favorites, and components. So the homepage is just like you would see in Classic, but it's different because you can add and remove different things on here. And this is just a bare bones example of a typical homepage layout would look like. So you have your little performance dashboard here, but you can always add custom report types, or custom dashboard components on the homepage. Whereas in Classic, you were only able to see the top 3 of a specific dashboard. And the nice thing with this is you can configure and tailor your home pages to your different users based on profile, roles, or other means. Another really cool feature is the account news. So inside of all of the accounts of Salesforce, it's looking at all those account names and it's trying to find relevant information on the internet related to those accounts from reputable news sources and trying to pull that information into Salesforce for you. So if you have, for example, Tesla as an account, it's going to be highlighting that news there, and it's going to dynamically display those news articles based on your accounts that you're interacting with or that are in your organization. You also have recent records. This is one of the out-of-box components. And then the other thing it also does is it has a little bit of artificial intelligence. So it's looking at things that you need to be aware of that normally you wouldn't have been, information wouldn't have been as visible. So it's thinking for you, and it's trying to help you along based on best practice with managing opportunities, contacts, accounts, etc., or any outstanding tasks. So it's really immersing yourself into all of the things that you could be doing better on the homepage and giving you an at-a-glance, so you're not trying to move all over Salesforce trying to figure out what you need to do each day. And with Salesforce in Lightning, there's over 20 standard homepage components. So these are the main 4 here that you get out of the box. And then the sales path. So the sales path was really designed around opportunities or donations for those that are nonprofits on the call. It's very similar to the different sales stages, but now we're taking it a step further and we're guiding our users through a specific path. So for example, this other feature that comes with Sales Path is the guidance for success. So we can add notes and different tips to help our users get to the next stage. And this helps us cut down on user adoption time. It speeds up the user adoption, and it makes the adoption of these different features more consistent. So we're encouraging our users as well as coaching them through our internal processes. So for example, say for example, I want to escalate this opportunity from needs analysis to proposal. I can put key fields in here and they can be dynamic based on each stage of what I need to enter before I can escalate it. So instead of having a bunch of validation rules in there and just a lot of big red flags that say, hey, you need to do this, well, we're encouraging that by simply putting it in front of them. So they don't have to go through an entire page layout of trying to find the information that they need to complete. It's all relevant and in front of them, making it a much more streamlined process. In addition, the sales path can be used across other objects as well, as long as you have a pick list that drives a process. So for example, if you have a custom object that's process driven, you can do the exact same thing with that and have different sales paths depending on the different types of record types or other means. Now the Kanban. This is a really cool feature that extends our list views. So the nice thing with this is instead of having to inline edit on individual records or in a list view, we can simply drag and drop records in between the different stages here on a sales path. And this again can be used on any sales path. So you can use this on leads or opportunities. And you can summarize information based on the total in that individual bucket. Obviously, this is not great for hundreds of records. It's really trying to drive what are the things I need to be aware of and helping your users act on, say, pipeline report or outstanding pledges that we need to resolve. Another cool thing is some of the components on here is it will help you identify, hey, these are some things you should be aware of, such as, hey, there's no open activities on these records. We need to create a new task or event. So it's encouraging our users to be driving our opportunities or donations. And then we can easily switch between the Kanban and list views, as well as creating filters or reports within the Kanban or list views. So it's giving some visual reference to our data instead of having it look like a giant spreadsheet without any kind of actionable information. Reports and dashboards. So with classic dashboards, we were limited to 3 columns, and Lightning allows you to break that down and extend, I believe, up to 6 columns. And you can shrink and expand these different components to different sizes based on the information. So if you have a large chart that's really the main point of this dashboard, you can make it bigger, but if you have metrics, you can shrink them down into a smaller box to fit your needs. They operate just like every other component as you would in Classic, but now you have control over fitting and molding the different components in the way that makes sense for your users and your admins. Global actions. So with global actions, this is very similar to what you saw in Classic with clicking that Create New button, but now it's available at the very top bar. So at any page within Salesforce, you can access these global actions. In addition, you can add custom global actions here to help facilitate quicker data entry and minimizing that time span from your users and really trying to drive kind of the workflow of their day-to-day. And favorites. So with favorites now, you can take any page, record, dashboard, report, and save it simply by clicking on the little star at the top. And these will be user specific. So all of your users have control over identifying what's important to them. So if they're going back to a donation record or an opportunity record on a daily basis and they don't want to have to search it, it can be just clicking on this little drop down next to the star to access the favorites, and it's going to show all of them, as well as some of the ones that they're constantly accessing. So it'll separate the ones that as a user I've favorited, as well as the ones that Salesforce thinks are the top 3. So components. This is really where Lightning shines, and I want to show you an example of what Lightning looks like as a mirror image of what the Classic version of that layout would look like. So this is a typical opportunity or donation record in Salesforce. We have our details at the top, so all of our fields. We're locked down to 2 different columns, and then we have our related lists underneath. We don't have a lot of control on where buttons go, where fields go, or related lists. This is a hardened structure and not exactly flexible for users to control. And there's over 25 standard components that we can do or use in Lightning, and they can be configured by role, profile, or record type. So taking that same record and displaying it in Lightning, we now have our chatter feed to the right. We have our sales path up top. We have some of our key fields up here that are always important for us to reference, so we don't necessarily need to have the details open, which will access all of our fields. And then we have our related lists. So very similar to what we saw, but now it's above the fold, and it's very easy to access that information without having to scroll and find all the different fields that we need to. We're prioritizing the things that are important to our users based on those different records. Now, another way to look at this is moving everything off to the left where we have our details, and we can collapse these different sections just like in Classic. But then we want to expand our related lists off here, and maybe we say chatter and activity isn't important. So we can easily put those in different tabs. And I'll show you later on how easy it is to organize these. And again, we have our sales path up at the top here. And another thing I want to mention, of the 25 standard components that Salesforce has with Lightning, there's over 162 custom components on the App Exchange, and 149 of those are free. Whoops. Now, for those that see change is hard for their users and they want just a mirror image of what they're used to, you can easily replicate what you have in Classic. So this is a near mirror image of what you'd see with that Classic view that we were looking at earlier. And we've replicated it with the details on the top, with our fields in 2 columns, and then our related list below. But you're really not taking advantage of Lightning at this point. There's just so much more you can be doing with using all these different components and building blocks to really tailor to your organization. And if we want to go real crazy, there's a few, this is actually a custom component here. And we can easily drop in different reports within a record. We can organize it in different columns. So you can see this is a 3-column design here. We have our sales path at the top. We have our chatter post here. We have our activities timeline. So you can get really creative with changing your different Lightning pages and really making a difference for your users day to day. So that was 4 different ways to replicate a single page layout from Classic into Lightning. All right, I want to get into the demo org now, so I'm going to be switching over into my dev org that I have. And full disclosure, I am not the Lightning expert. I am pretty dangerous when it comes to Lightning. If you have very technical questions, feel free to ask them. I'll try my best to answer them at the end of this presentation. And if there's any that I cannot answer, I'll try to connect with our consulting team to see if I can answer them. And feel free to follow up with us or just reach out to us on our website. So what I mentioned before is we have our performance component here. We can easily move this around if need be, but this is just what's out of the box when you convert over to Lightning for the first time. We have today's events, today's tasks. I quickly put in a report here just to show that I can make some information actionable on my homepage. And then my assistant here. So the nice thing with this is I can create a new task or an event from this assistant item that popped up for me. So for example, I have this new donation that has 30 days without activity. Salesforce recommends I create an upcoming task or an event, or I can just dismiss this altogether and move on. So again, it's driving my actionability on things that I need to work on without impacting all of the time that's necessary for me to get my information or getting my work done for the day. So next, I want to get over into opportunities or donations for our nonprofits on the call. So I'm in just a simple list view here, and again, this is a dev org. This is not a full-blown Lightning implementation. I just want to showcase some of those main features. So we have all opportunities list view. Managing these list views is just like you would in Classic, where you can click on edit, your filters, and modify them as need be. But now I'm in my Kanban, and I can easily switch between a table or in the Kanban view, and I can move these records around pretty easily, and my calculations will automatically recalculate. And I can bring in different charts. So I can change my different report types or the charts on the right here to summarize different information. And it's very easy to configure these much like you would in a dashboard. But in my opinion, it's a lot easier because you're really just trying to get what's the summary of the information I need to know right now. Another cool thing with list views in Lightning is you can do multi-record editing. So say I want to change the amount on these 2 records. I mean, that's probably a bad example, but I can easily change them to edit these two to be, let's say, $10,000 if I really wanted to, and I can easily apply that. So it makes things much more intuitive and user-friendly for getting these different actions done, and this is out of the box. This does not require a new app from the App Exchange. It comes with Lightning. Now I want to get into the sales path. Let's get into one of these opportunities here. So you can see that I went through this process and I've completed it, but I can easily back up and go back to prospecting. So you can see here I have my guidance for success, and in this step I indicate that you need to inform the manager before escalating to the next step. And then I can easily click on these different stages and give them some notes. We're coaching them through the process. So if you have a very specific sales process, you can link to resources, tips. You can really change this and add bullet points and bold text and italicize. So you have a lot of control over formatting the guidance for success, as well as putting the different fields on here that is critical for that one stage of the sales path. And again, you can configure multiple sales paths depending on different record types or a number of different strategies that you have for managing your processes. Then I want to quickly go over accounts here. So this was using a custom layout that I quickly put together, and I'll show you how easy it is to configure these in just a moment. So in this case, I put our activity on the left. So this is our activity timeline, as well as our chatter posts. So if I'm collaborating with internal users, I can access that information here. And then I can switch between our details, so our fields, or related lists on here. But let's get into a contact. So another cool thing with Lightning is it's going to actively try and search for potential duplicates. So this is a component I don't necessarily need to have in our Lightning pages. But if I do, it will help reduce some of the clutter. So if we do have a lot of duplication happening, or just part of our cleanup process, Salesforce is going to be actively looking for that information for us. Again, this is just a standard layout for context. You can easily configure this. So let's jump into how easy it is to modify these pages. So I'm going to click on Setup and click on Edit Page. So this is using the existing template I have set. If I want to create a new framework or layout in Lightning, I can show you that step in just a moment. But you have your different components here, and again, this is a demo org, so I don't have all of the cool features. But adding stuff in here is really easy. It's literally drag and drop, adding those components, and now I can see all of that information on here. Let's say I don't want to see my recent contacts. I want to change this. I want to have recent accounts as well. So now I have 2 contacts in an account. And maybe I just only want to see recent opportunities. I can easily tailor that, as well as on the home page as well. So I can also use an accordion to organize different information. So for example, we have our related lists here. So I can add a related list component, and I can tell it, hey, these are all the related lists I want to have on here. And again, it's going to reference our page layouts. This is the organization of how fields and related lists are ordered. So you still need to use the page layouts that you'd see in Classic. Lightning organizes the information in different components. So try to understand that there's 2 separate ways. And then if you have any custom components, they would be displayed here. So like I said, there's around 150 free ones available that I highly recommend looking into. And then news. So, and again, this is a dev org, so I don't have the full features of this, but any relevant information will be highlighted here on this contact record, but preferably it's usually on your home page. So let's get into what it would look like to create a brand new Lightning page. So I'm going to go into Setup, and then we're going to get in what's called the Lightning App Builder. Now in here, we'll have the option to create a brand new layout that we can apply to a specific object. So we have 3 kind of page types. So this is your app page for some of your mobile responsive views, a home page, or a record page. In this case, I'm just going to use a record page, and I'm going to call this test, and I'm going to do this on the opportunity object or donations for those that are nonprofits. And I have 11 different templates I can use, as well as I can reference any custom ones here. So I'm just going to use, let's do the right sidebar with the header. And then from here, it's just adding different things on here. So here's the highlights panel. So I can reference what are the main fields on the top here. We have our buttons up in the top right. And then I want to add a sales path. So I can add the sales path that I want. So if I have multiple, I can reference them here. If I have any reports I want to call out right away, I can easily add a bunch of those. And for the sake of simplicity, I have just one report that I'm just going to reference multiple times. Actually, I do have one other one here. So I can easily move those around and add filters if I have a filter added to that. And if I need to, I can add my related lists. Or I can add some tabs on here to break it down. So maybe I don't want to have my related lists. Oop, let me just remove that. So now I can jump between details and related list here. And then perhaps we can put our chatter feed underneath it. So you have a lot of flexibility of playing with the different components on here. It's very easy to modify these, just saving and activating. I'm not going to save it because this is just a demo. And now I want to get back over to dashboards. That's the last thing I want to talk about in my demo here. So I want to get over into the sales app. And I want to save plenty of time for questions at the end. So in the dashboard here, I just put together the same reports that I have available because it's just a demo, but I want to showcase that I can easily move these in different sizes need be. So I'm just going to refresh this information quick, get that to populate. So I can easily move these different components around by clicking on edit. So maybe I want to make this a little bit bigger. I want to make this a little skinnier here. So it's simply just moving that around. I can drag and drop and it will automatically push things around. I can make this much larger to call out information. So it's very easy to modify this, and creating components on the dashboard is very similar to how you would have done it in Classic, but it just takes fewer steps and it presents information in a better format in my opinion. So if you have things that like different metrics, it's very easy to collapse these in a way that takes up less real estate on the page. You still have all the same components that you were used to in Classic. So your tables, your metrics, donut charts, different bar graphs, and your gauges. So just making things look easier for users. As well as you can still apply filters. Another cool thing is you have an undo button. So if you didn't like a step you did, you can easily go between and undo different steps. And then once you're done, just save, and it just goes back to the view of that dashboard. So very easy to manipulate your dashboards. All right, so let's get back into our demo here, or our presentation. So is Lightning worth it? Yes, absolutely. It gets you to where you need to be as an end user very quickly. It puts the highest priority of information on top of the page, and on one page you don't have to jump around to multiple pages. It's very seamless to move around. And it's a simplified experience. So there isn't a whole lot of clicks to get to different things or trying to reference where information is. You can tailor how users are interacting with Salesforce, and you have a lot more control on that, which is, again, going to be driving user adoption and productivity because you're putting a frame of reference, you're adding coaching capability, and also looking out for them with some of the AI components. So how do you move to Lightning Experience? And we wanted to talk about this in what we call the 3 Ps. This is just a very simple way of looking at getting into the Lightning Experience and migrating. So it's preparation, pilot, and push. So in preparation, we're going to use the Lightning Migration Assistant. So these are one of the features that Salesforce released a while ago, but have enhanced over time with producing a readiness report. And that readiness report will indicate here are the things that you need to watch out for or manually convert over to Lightning. So part of that is reviewing this Lightning report and updating Salesforce so that the conversion is seamless, and then designing your Lightning pages accordingly. So where you access that information is getting into the setup pane, going into the Lightning Experience tab up in the top left there, clicking on that, and then clicking on check your Lightning Experience readiness report. So that will then kick off a report to you, and that will look at your entire organization, look at all of your buttons, your layouts, applications, everything that you have in Salesforce, and help identify what are some things you need to look out for, or what are some things that are, hey, this isn't a big deal, or just be aware of. So it's going to give you an overview of everything. Word of caution though, sometimes these reports are pretty large. For those that have ran them, you probably know what I'm talking about, and they can be a little overwhelming and scary. But the idea is that Salesforce wants to be thorough on moving to Lightning. So you're fully aware of all of the things to look out for in the conversion to Lightning. So once you've gotten your foundation set with Lightning, now it's to identify a pilot group to live in Lightning. And this is kind of where we ask the pilot group to spend at least 2 weeks doing their day-to-day without having to click back into Classic. So there is a way to actually disable going from Lightning to Classic. So you can disable Classic altogether and force them in there. But the thing is, what we're trying to identify is what are the things that they can't do in Lightning. And once those things have been identified, now it's identifying those gaps. So maybe it's something that we forgot to do in the readiness report, and maybe we just need to update a button quick. But as of today, a lot of these gaps have been covered with some of the recent releases. And now it's just enhancing on what we have now versus trying to fix some of the things in between. So once we've identified most of those gaps, we've basically put it through the test and felt that we are ready to go live for the large organization. We're not just going to pull the trigger and push it out to all of the organization. We want to put together a plan and communicate that plan to all of the teams that will be migrating to Lightning. In my opinion, the users that should be adopted or should be pushed onto Lightning first are sales. Lightning really is around the salesperson in mind, the individuals that are doing a lot of data manipulation or managing a lot of contacts. Those are the people you want to migrate first, because that's where a lot of those components are going to be coming in handy to help their day-to-day. And we want to put together a roadmap of who do we migrate at which time, because maybe different users are using different applications and different Lightning layouts differently, and maybe we need to tweak some dashboards and just some automation behind the scenes. So one at a time allows us to iterate all the changes from each group and slowly push them into the entire organization back into Lightning. And after we've moved that one group in, we move on to the next one. We're constantly monitoring for any issues and any ideas or feedback for ways to improve the platform. So let's recap the presentation. So Lightning is a game changer. It really changes everything for users and admins and organizations using Salesforce. There is some homework required to migrate into Lightning. It's not just a quick switch into the new interface. While you can do that, you may have some buttons that aren't working correctly. You may want to spend some time changing your layouts so they make more sense. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. All of the new features that Lightning is coming out with the new releases. So Salesforce produces 3 new releases every year. We have winter, spring, and summer. So those releases are adding a lot, and there's a lot of other cool features on the roadmap that are going to be delivered over the next year. So there's so much more to come, and we feel that it's reached a place where we can highly recommend with confidence that Lightning is the way to go now, so that we're preparing ourselves for the future if we're adopting new apps or features that are no longer compatible with Classic. So another thing to highlight is Salesforce highly recommends working with a consultant on conversion. This is especially true if you have a lot of custom code, a lot of complexity with automation. looking at specific apps that may have some weird compatibility issues or might not be completely Lightning ready, or if you have lots of users and there's lots of tailoring needed for your different groups and users or different managers. And this is also an opportunity to evaluate what are the other things we can also knock out together. So kind of think of it as two birds with one stone, of doing an assessment of where's my org at today and where do I want it to be now with Lightning, because this is really kind of a, hey, this is a great opportunity to explore all the cool features within Lightning and clean up some of the things that maybe were a problem or an issue in the past that now we have an opportunity to tackle all at the same time. And if you have a lot of customization, so custom buttons, so if you're using a lot of URL hacks, a lot of those won't work. But most of the apps, such as the Nonprofit Success Pack, that is Lightning ready. So there's just a few things to look out for with that, some minor things. But again, if you have lots of customization, a lot of references within the organization, we highly recommend at least talking to one of our account managers, and we'll help you run that readiness report, and we can help you do an assessment. All right, so I've done all the talking. We got about 15 minutes left. So do not bombard me with too many questions. I'll do my best to answer them. And if you want to see some other features within the Lightning interface, I'd be happy to show you. So please go ahead and dump your questions in the Q&A section. And this is a recorded webinar. We will be sending this out to all of our attendees and anyone that wasn't able to attend today. So what questions can I answer for you guys? Okay, so I got one here to look at the app builder again. So let's look at that. And again, very easy to access. Go into Setup in Lightning. And I really love the quick find up here. It's a huge time saver versus trying to find all the different drop downs. So you can access all of your different layouts here, and editing them is pretty easy from within here, much like you'd see in your page layouts, but it's all grouped together versus by object. And then this is where you would access your different pages here. I got a question about, would files have any organization abilities in Lightning? Could you clarify that question, please? Or give me an example. And of course I can follow up with, okay, like sorting, alpha ordering. As far as I know, I think that's a possibility. I've not set that up, but what I can do is follow up with you after this so I can get an accurate answer to you. I don't want to be saying something I don't know 100% about. Any other questions about Lightning? How to, any best practices that you guys would like to hear? All right. Well, it sounds like I answered everyone's questions. If you have any questions later on, feel free to reach out to your account manager. Or reach out to us on our website. There's a form for you to fill out there, and we can easily get connected with you. And you can always find me as well if you have some specific questions. I really appreciate everyone's time today, and I'll be sending out this recording to everyone so you can recap this.